Russia's unprovoked aggression is causing the Russian Federation to sever its ties with almost the entire world. Russian President Vladimir Putin lost heavily, not only in Eastern Europe, but also in many parts of the world with his war enthusiasm in Ukraine. After the Cold War, Russia's 20-year soft power element ended with the war that broke out in the Middle East in 2011. The US, China, UK, France, Iran, Israel and Turkey have taken action over the past decade with Russia's abuse of soft power. While China and Iran have established great strategic partnerships with Russia, cards have been redealt in the Middle East, Africa, Central Asia and the Pacific over the last 10 years. Russia, which had a conflict of interest with France, the UK and the USA in Africa, had similar disagreements with Turkey in Libya. Although Russia has similar interests with China in the Pacific, it's flamed its conflicts with the USA, Japan and Australia. Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014 actually signaled that all the balances in the world were about to change. With this move, Russia completely clashed with Turkey and Ukraine in the Black Sea. Europe and the rest of the world chose not to hear voices from Ukraine or Turkey. In the same years, the war in Syria escalated, and the Middle East was hosting a complicated hybrid war as always. The different interests of the USA, Turkey, Israel, Iran and Russia on Syria have led to different groupings over time. However, when we came to 2022, it was Russia that dominated the region. However, their attempt on invading Ukraine, which emerged from Putin's unprovoked aggression, did not go as Putin wanted. As a result of this situation, Russia has lost its dominance in the Middle East to a certain degree. Having lost its superiority in the Middle East, the Russian army weakened in the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. And as a result of Finland and Sweden's NATO appeal against Russia's aggression, Russia had to leave the Baltic Sea to NATO forces. Putin's navy, which monitors the exercises of NATO forces from afar, is locked in a bottleneck. This situation brought the Russian Navy even more into confrontation with the US Navy. All these elements and the conflict of interest of the superpowers that have developed in the last 10 years pushed Russia to make critical and dangerous moves in the Arctic and North Atlantic Ocean at the end of 2021. In this process, the USA has always known the weight of its soft power and has always remained open to communication in moves towards peacekeeping. However, as a result of Russia's unprofessional moves against the USA, it took serious blows in its strategic superiority, both in the poles and in the North Atlantic Ocean. Russia and the United States share a natural maritime border, and tensions have always been high between the two countries along the coasts of Canada, Alaska, and the Arctic region. Russian warships conducted serious operations in the North Atlantic Ocean in the middle of last year and earlier this year, and conducted exercises off the UK coast. The Russian Navy also began to threaten US ports with its submarines and warships. However, as we have just mentioned, the Russian Marines began to falter with the heavy blows that the Ukrainian war inflicted on the Russian Navy and the army. However, the Russian Navy still has a very dangerous and nuclear power, and Russia seems to be trying to prove its presence in the region with its latest moves. Recent reports have revealed that Russia is sending bombers and nuclear submarines to the Canadian and US coasts. Last week, Russian bombers and nuclear submarines were detected by the US military very close to the Canadian and US coasts. This is how Moscow is trying to demonstrate its ability to attack Canada and the United States, according to Alain Pelletier, Vice President of the North American Aerospace Defense Command, told the Senate Defense Committee that there has been a decline in the number of Russian bombers in North American airspace this year, especially after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, but that activity has now resumed. According to him, the Russian Federation is sending submarines from both the Atlantic and Pacific coasts to effectively demonstrate their strategic capabilities and pose a threat to North America. After a brief pause in the first months of the war in Ukraine, Russia has begun sending long-range bombers into North American airspace over the Arctic, according to a senior Canadian military official. Activities are not limited to long-range aviation. Russia now uses submarines on both the Atlantic and Pacific coasts to effectively demonstrate its strategic capabilities and pose a threat to North America. While Pelletier did not provide further details in his aforementioned statements, NORAD officials announced last month that 2 long-range Russian bombers were intercepted by American warplanes after approaching Alaska. The bombers did not enter North American airspace before leaving. Pelletier and other defense officials also confirmed that Canada and the United States have begun to work on modernizing NORAD, a joint early warning system that is North America's first line of defense against an airborne foreign attack. The Liberal government announced in June that Ottawa plans to invest $4.9 billion over the next 6 years and $40 billion over the next 20 years to upgrade the system in collaboration with Washington, D.C. This includes replacing the radar array from the 1980s that formed the backbone of Canada's contribution to NORAD with more modern systems that can see farther and detect and track new types of weapons. "We're in the very early stages," said Jonathan Quinn, a Department of Defense official. Jonathan Quinn also said, "The announcement was made in June, but we are establishing detailed plans with milestones by establishing project offices here at National Defense Headquarters to advance certain initiatives." This is particularly evident as Russia and China begin to flex their muscles in the Arctic and develop new weapons that can more easily hit North America, including extremely fast-flying cruise missiles and hypersonic weapons. Still, as research and development on new radars and other equipment to find and intercept such weapons is progressing rapidly, Quinn told the committee it will take some time before they are on the ground. Quinn added that Canada and the United States would have to rely on the threat of retaliation to prevent such attacks. 2 Russian submarines had been operating in the region in the past months. British Royal Navy ship HMS Portland spotted 2 Russian submarines in the North Sea. The UK Naval Press Service reported on its official website that, according to the British Navy, the cruise missile submarine Svarodvensk and the Shah-class attack submarine Vepr surfaced on the 16th off the Norwegian coast northwest of Bergen in the North Sea. The British hunter ship HMS Portland and a special helicopter known as Merlin, equipped with modern equipment for detecting submarines, recorded the course of the movement by Russian submarines. Recently, the frequent movement by Russian submarines in the region have caused serious discomfort in the Pentagon. In addition to these moves, the Russian nuclear submarine, which appeared on the Danish coast of the Baltic in recent months, also revealed the danger. The Danish armed forces reported that they had discovered a Russian nuclear submarine in the Skagerrak Strait between Denmark and Norway. At that time, it was reported that the submarine was the first appearance of a nuclear submarine belonging to the Russian Federation, capable of carrying Zircon hypersonic missiles in the Baltic Sea. The Danish military has no information as to whether the submarine is equipped with these missiles. The submarine was accompanied by 2 warships. K-560 Svarodvensk is a multi-purpose Russian nuclear submarine with 4th-generation cruise missiles. It is equipped with Zircon missiles capable of hitting targets at a distance of up to 10,000 kilometers and carrying a nuclear charge. Serious concerns about the opening of these submarines to the oceans began to be talked about backstage. It is also true that the threat the submarine will pose in international waters is a serious concern. In October 2021, it was reported that the submarine successfully launched the hypersonic Zircon missile from the White Sea to a target in the Barents Sea. In July 2022, the submarine was tracked on the surface by NATO naval forces as it passed from the Northern Fleet to the Baltic, accompanied by the Aquila-class submarine Vepr. In August 2022, Italian Navy sources reported the detection of a nuclear submarine, reportedly Svarodvensk, which had sunk in the Mediterranean in the south of Sicily, making it the first Russian nuclear submarine in the Mediterranean since Kursk and Tomsk. Many Russian nuclear submarines, such as the Svarodvensk submarine we reviewed, remain the biggest threat to international Russia. This power will strengthen Russia's hand in the tensions expected to be experienced, especially in the North Pole in the coming years. Such a threat can trouble the world at any moment, but Russia's current situation requires it to get out of the Ukrainian hell, and unless it does, it may not have a presence anywhere else. Thanks for watching.